everybody knows. How?
HSN Football Podcast, episode 26. We want to first off start by thanking our Churros Restaurant, 94 Beechwood Avenue, Vanier, because they were very gracious to lend Jeff Karate the production bus that we had parked outside of the championship weekend at Minto Field the whole time. So thank you to our Churros Restaurant providing us our first production bus. It was awesome to have. We had the coaches in there um, talking about the games that had just passed, and anyways, thank you to our Churros, and welcome to the HESN podcast. Let's get started. Welcome. I'm Jesse Card, your host, with Kyle Ball as always. And holy jeez,
What a weekend, eh, Jesse?
what do you think, man?
That was one of the best football weekends I've ever seen. All the way from Thursday night, we had the Riders come back against the Raiders in the Mosquito C Cup, all the way up to the Canada Knights stunning the Cumberland Panthers. I mean, mad respect to Canada.
What was your favorite game, do you think? They really rallied. They connected with Saskatchewan and some of the football that's happening there. They have a very successful 6-on-6 program, and they figured out how to do it. And like you said, and like Jeff said on the broadcast, without those guys' hard work, we might have had however many kids playing in that 6-on-6 league not be introduced to football.
Yep.
And, I mean, these could be the next stars of Ottawa football. So I personally think the best game for me was the Canada upset.
Yep. Yeah, that was such a great game. Canada parents brought the atmosphere to what some had dubbed Panthers Park, but let's face it was the Orleans Bengals who put on a great weekend there.
Yep.
And Canada was the better coach team that day. You look at players like Connor Vanessa, Kareem Ferdinand, the running back, Roman Reed, the linebacker, Riley Gilmore, Eric Chichardi. They all came to play, and they were ready to shut down the Canada team that we were pumping up so much.
Yeah, I mean, you mean the Cumberland team.
Sorry, yeah, the Cumberland team we were pumping up so much.
Yeah, I think the hype in that game was the best because it was the last game of the weekend. Panthers thought they had it. They didn't come to play, but mad respect to Canada. I know we've gotten some heat in the last couple of days, people talking about how biased our broadcast was, and I want to address that because, first off, as we all know, yes, Jeff Karate is a longtime Panthers coach. His son's come up through there. Yes, he's wearing Panthers gear in the broadcast booth, but, it's hard to find him not in Panthers gear. But he's a professional. He's worked with Dan Mooney, who the original plan was Dan and Jeff were going to do the broadcast, but Dan was busy with the 67s in town. But having said that, I will stand behind Jeff's performance. That guy dedicated not only the Midget 4 hours of his own time to do that game, but he did 12 hours of broadcasting with me on the Sunday. So I challenge anyone to find somebody that's more dedicated to youth football than Jeff Karate and successful at winning games. Yes, he had a son on the team, and it probably came through, and I don't doubt that. But when we're asking people to dedicate that much time to youth football and to help us get this production up and going, you know what? Relax. And what I always say, Kyle, is that haters are just confused admirers. So keep it up. Keep bringing the talk, man.
Yeah, one person was adamant that we didn't do our homework. We didn't look at any stats or player pronunciations or anything. We reached out to all the organizations and said, give us what we can, like rosters and any player stories. Some teams just send in a plain roster, so we had to go with how we felt the names were pronounced. So any apologies to any players we upset, but
and you know what? We'll get better.
Yep.
I mean, the whole thing is that there's a tremendous amount of work to get this thing where NCAFA now has live broadcast. But we're working with the limitations that we have and the constraints that we have. So our commitment is to bring this thing all the way up to the top, and the bowl games are going to give us another opportunity to really showcase what HESN is doing and trying to do. Our partnership kits, I'll show you this. We have just gotten these fresh off the print. We've only done a couple of sales meetings with these, but we're very excited because community supporters like our churros and hopefully a few of the others that we've been talking to are coming on will allow us to do more, will allow us to have the proper camera operators and pay them, because actually a lot of people don't know that we had 2 camera operators that were supposed to be with us all Sunday not come through. So
yeah, for me that was a long day. I was on the camera for 12 hours straight, and I gotta say my shoulder was on ice that night.
You know what? You stood up like a champ, man. You're like the guy that the injury, the starting quarterback went down, and you jumped in and you delivered a championship for your team. Anyways, I'm getting off the rant about that. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth of the championship weekend and also preview the bowl games, which are now a week away. Kyle, there's been some talk from the Montreal. They were on the stream on Friday night watching intently on the Midget Championship.
Yep.
And we saw a huge upset. So why don't we start with Midget Friday night?
All right, so starting with Midget, Friday night we had the Bel Air Norsemen going up against the Nepean Eagles, and Nepean came out to play. They started with a long first drive in which we saw their running attack go wild, and they punched it in for the first quarter touchdown, and their defense held on for the rest of the game. They shut down the Norsemen until very late in the fourth quarter, where the Norsemen got a touchdown. But
Tashimbi finally got loose.
Yep.
They were handing him the ball a lot. On the other side, I think personally Dante performed a great game.
Yeah, Dante Blizzard had a great game at quarterback, and Noah Gauthier had a great game at running back as well.
Noah, hands down, player of the game, I think.
Gauthier for sure.
Gauthier for sure. They gave him the ball so much. So now we're looking at what is going to transpire. We don't know who the Eagles, Nepean Eagles, will be playing from the Quebec Midget Football League. The championship is when is that happening?
That's happening this Sunday at 3 o'clock. It's going to be live streamed. For more information on that, you can check out the QMFL Facebook page. They have the link there. It's going to be the North Shore Mustangs against the St. Leonard Cougars. Cougars upset the number 1 team in my power rankings, the Greenfield Park Packers, 21-19. And the Mustangs dominated 21-2 in their semifinal to move on to the finals.
So November 19th, we have the game. It's at Carleton University. It's going to be streamed and broadcast live by HESN Live.
Yep.
This is epic. This has not happened in our time. This is the first ever of the Interprovincial Bowl series. Both leagues have been working in the backgrounds very hard on this, and now the Nepean Eagles, all eyes will be on them.
Yep.
The whole city riding on this team.
Yeah, so they were the first ones to punch their ticket into the Interprovincial Bowl series. As you can see on the graphic there, they made their way through the playoffs. They beat the Giants 9-0 and the Norsemen 7-6. So they have earned their spot here. They beat the number 1 and the number 2 seeds going into the playoffs. And they're going to represent Ottawa, along with a couple other teams. We're going to have the Myers Riders and the Canada Knights in there.
So just back to that Midget Championship a little bit. As you see, we've got it on the board. We've got it on the TV up here. We talk about my perception on it, what I saw was the Eagles came out in that first drive, and they just looked pissed off. Noah Gauthier's running style, as we know, all season has been that style. He's been that kid his whole NCAFA career. We've watched him with the Raiders grow up. We've seen him gain size and speed, but he is a passionate player. We talked about it on the broadcast, Jeff and I. He's a very passionate kid. But that's the kind of attitude you need from some players, especially when you've got your back against the wall. You're playing a highly favored opponent, which I'm sure they're going to be an underdog in this Interprovincial Bowl series too.
Yeah, for sure. They only finished the regular season 4-4 in NCAFA, and most people had the Bel Air Norsemen already booked into the bowl series here and booked for their third straight championship. But like you said, Nepean came to play.
So they've gone through the playoffs with very low scoring games, but their defense has come up huge.
Yeah, their defense was one of the best in the Midget division. I believe they allowed under 10 points a game or something like that, and yeah, they just shut the Norsemen down.
So what is going to be important if they stack up, let's say North Shore? And I think they're would you say they're the favorite?
North Shore are definitely the favorites.
Okay, so if North Shore wins this Sunday, and we're working on maybe setting up those games, they're going to be live broadcasts as well. We might be at Broadway's in Barrhaven watching those games with the Eagles. So if you're interested in joining that party, come on out. I haven't finalized that yet, but I think we can get it done. Just direct message us on our social media if you want more information on if that's happening or not. But if North Shore wins and they face the Eagles, I think the Eagles are going to be a big underdog in that.
But then again, they're used to that.
They're used to that, but at some point you got to score more than 10 points.
Yep.
Like you're really, really risking it. So what kind of offensive adjustments do they have to make, and what kind of wrinkles do they have to add to be able to ensure that they're at least scoring 28 points? I look at 28 in a championship game. If your offense, if you're not capable of scoring 28 points, you're leaving destiny in somebody else's hands.
Right. I mean, you look at the Eagles in the last play of the game. It came down to 30-yard field goal, and unfortunately the Bel Air kicker missed it. And
well, I wouldn't say he missed, like he did miss it, but it was a high snap.
Yep.
He started his run up, and the timing got screwed up. But Josh Strang's the best kicker in Ottawa right now, best punter in Ottawa. So I don't knock them for trying to win the game. Right. Tony Valente is not a guy that is gonna not try to win the game.
He's not gonna say let's punt it and go for overtime.
But having said that, they could have.
Yes, they could have.
They could have knocked it back for the Rouge and at least put it into overtime.
Well, that was a bold strategy by Nepean there. It was third down from, I believe, their own 40 with 6 seconds left, and Dante just took the ball and
that was after a timeout. So yeah. I actually said in the broadcast, if you go back to that, I said I'm not sure if I would know any better because you're in the heat of the moment. Jeff corrected me and said they just had a timeout. They had time to talk about it. So that could have been hugely costly for the Eagles.
Yeah, and he got tackled at his own 25 with 1 second left and
in field goal range.
Yep.
So they're lucky to slip out of that one. Now, I think what would be on my mind as a coaching staff for the Eagles, Andy Ogg and his crew, and the players out there, is they're actually going to have the whole city's eyes on them when they play this Quebec team for the first time ever. And goddamn, you wouldn't want to be blown out.
No.
So
I mean, I get we're playing with their rules, 4-down football, but Midget plays 4-down football as well.
Yeah, people are talking about that being an issue at the lower levels like Peewee and Bantam, and I really don't agree. I think football's football. You're not going to lose because it's an extra down. I mean, if anything, that's going to give the offenses an advantage. So they do have to pass in the first three downs.
First 3 plays, yes.
So that's something the coaches probably would want to be putting that into play at practice this week, just to get used to that play calling. But I know NCAFA will do its best to support these teams in the utmost way to ensure that we have a good product on the field and our teams have the best chance to win.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. November 19th, Carleton University. It's going to be fun.
So let's move down to the Bantam and what I said was my favorite game.
Yep. All right, so yeah, just we'll pull up the Bantam bracket here. We saw the Canada Knights. They beat the Cumberland Panthers 17-13. You look at the Knights' path to the final. They beat the Raiders 35-8 in the quarterfinals and the Warriors 3-1 in the semis. That was a mud bowl.
Yep.
And on the Quebec side, we have the Barons and the Sun Youth Hornets. They're ready to go head-to-head in their finals on Sunday at...
It's the mid-game, right?
Yeah, noon. Yeah, the MRFL, the QBFL, and the QMFL, they're all having their championship games on the same day at the same stadium, kind of like how we did it.
Yep, and they're live broadcast. So once again, if you're just tuning in right now, I'm working on getting those games televised at the Broadway's location on Strandherd in Barrhaven, where the Eagles coaching staff have shown interest of watching that midget game. But before that, at noon, we'll watch the Bantam game. So the Canada Knights, come on down to Barrhaven, check that game out. We'll have we'll have a lot of supporters for the Canada Knights there.
Yep.
We get a look at the Sun Youth Hornets.
Sun Youth Hornets and Barons de St. Bruno.
So do you have any idea or do you have any favorite in that matchup?
The Barons should be the favorite. They're 11-0 right now. They went undefeated in the regular season and they've been two close playoff games. You look at it, they beat the Greenfield Park Packers 6-0 and the LaSalle Warriors 14-7, but they're the big favorite going into this one.
So the reason I think that Canada win was the biggest of the weekend is that I'll be the first to admit it. I don't think we gave them the respect all season. I mean, they hovered between 3 and 2 in the rankings.
Yep.
Kind of fluctuating between the Warriors and them. I called it. I said that I had no idea how the Panthers would be able to lose this game.
Yep.
I just thought they were too good and too talented. I was proven wrong. You were proven right.
Yep.
And Amy made sure that you knew that.
Not just Amy. I had a couple fans came up to the broadcast booth after and sort of knocked on the glass while we were cleaning up, and they're like, "I thought you were crazy for making that call, but it worked out." So, yeah, congrats to the Canada Knights, and you guys had a great game. Coach Adam Gilmore, he had them ready.
Gilmore, I tell you, that to me was the biggest thing about that game is how prepared they were. So that coaching staff, we know, must have worked their tails off to review film to ensure that they had the right attitude in the minds of the players. They were prepared. It didn't look like they were rattled at all by playing at home for the Panthers on the main stage.
Yeah, the defense was ready. I mean, they like you said, they watched a lot of tape and they limited Christian Villia to only 3 completions, and that was one of the main keys of how they came out with the victory.
Well, Jeff on the broadcast said, he knew Christian would have a good game. That's what he does. He said he's the real deal, and he is a fantastic player, but he didn't perform well enough to win a championship. And
right.
But I don't think it's not on him or Panthers. I think it's actually how well Canada played.
Yeah.
They played mistake-free. They had that block punt right at the start of the game.
Yeah, when Villia tried to bootleg out and do sort of a short punt, but that just wasn't working.
Canada's play calling on offense was great, and their quarterback, Vanessa, played outstanding as well.
Yep.
He completed a few great outs that got them first downs or made their third downs more manageable, and then they went for it.
Kareem Ferdinand.
Ferdinand, yeah, what a player. If he wasn't on your radar before, he is now, because this guy carried the rock. He was reliable. He reminds me kind of Thurman Thomas. Just a reliable guy that's going to get you 6.5 every time he carries the ball. We know that that's going to be a big key to their game in a couple weeks, right? Is it's going to be cold? Maybe it's snowing at that point.
Maybe,
maybe it's nice. I don't know. I looked at the forecast today, and they said the next Friday will actually be decent. It'll be just under 10. So who knows? But that's, a lot could happen in the weather from now till then. But we know that they're going to have to get the run game going. So that O-line for Canada has got to play pissed off, and they have to. They've got a lot of pride on the line here.
Yep. Well, they have the two-headed monster at running back, Ferdinand and
Rocca.
Yep. Yeah, Rocca ended up getting a touchdown in the game, and they look good.
And Rocca, also the kick returner. He had some phenomenal runs. So you're right. They've got the two-headed monster. They've got the ability to hand it off 2 different ways. And let's not forget the quarterback. He's overshadowed really, because Ferdinand has been so good. But for a guy managing the game and managing the personnel around him, I don't know what kind of a guy is in the locker room, but I imagine that all the players are looking up to him. And sometimes I think that quarterbacks, it's more important to be a good team guy in the locker room and making sure that everyone respects you and wants to play for you, and then you can kind of tell people what to do, because that's what a quarterback does. They're not really the engine, they're more of the oil.
Yep.
You know, they have to make sure the other parts are working. So I think for them to go, 4-4?
Yep.
And then win the A Cup against.
Oh no, sorry. The Knights went 7-1.
7-1. Sorry.
Yeah, their only loss was to Cumberland.
I knew that. My apologies. But so 7-1, just a very successful season. But potentially, they, it can be argued, Kyle, that they played potentially one of the best Cumberland Panthers Bantam teams of all time. Now, Cumberland Panthers have had trouble fielding Bantam teams in the last, I would say, 5 or more years. So for them to put a Bantam team in, have a great coaching staff, and then have an undefeated season like that, and then not deliver this is going to go down as a huge NCAFA Classic upset.
Yep. Yeah, and while we're talking all the great things about the offense, the defense was equally as impressive. We had linebacker Roman Reed, defensive lineman Kyle Prince, and the main player I noticed was safety Eric Chichardi, number 25.
25 was big, but I would also say I don't recall his name, number 23 on the corner.
Yep.
They tested him. If you go back and you watch that game, they probably tested him deep 5 times, maybe more, and every single time he came up huge. That's a tough position to be in where you're on the island. They trust you in what looked like maybe man coverage half of the time.
Yep.
And he came up huge, including in the end zone. So potentially 21 points if he's not on his game that day.
Yep.
This guy's just catapulted himself into stardom in the NCAFA folklore.
But yeah, that was, like you said, that was an absolute classic game. If anyone wants to watch it again, the full game is up on our HESN YouTube channel, and it will be up there for a long time.
Now, another quick plug as we got the Madden commercial rolling in the background. You probably saw it throughout the weekend. We are hosting an HSN Madden tournament. It'll probably be 2017 we're playing. More information to come, but that's probably going to be in January. But we have very limited spots. So before we roll this out citywide, we're hosting a little one. We got great prizes, like good prizes. I'm talking Xbox 360 S or 1 or whatever the hell it is, PS4 with a Madden 18 bundle. That's on the line. We've got someone from the East, Giuseppe Papalia, who says, there's no one that can touch this guy in Madden in the city. And then there's also Kyle has already said that, he's going to crush anyone.
Yep, 2 weeks ago I laid down a challenge, and surprisingly no one sent me a message saying they want to play yet.
Well, and I bet you there's a few coaches out there that are pretty good too. So yep. Some of the younger coaches. So anyways, we got that. So pre-registration is now open. We're almost at capacity, but if you go to hesn.co/Madden, you can sign up and get your name on the list, and then we're going to be sending out information on that shortly. I can't wait for this bowl series, man.
Yep. Yeah, and let's talk about the Peewee game. We got another very entertaining Cup game on Sunday with the Myers Riders and Orleans Bengals.
Yep.
I was wrong on my prediction. Myers came out 20-13, and they're going to represent Ottawa against the champions of the Montreal Regional.
Congratulations to the Myers Riders.
Yep.
This is huge. This I said in the podcast before. This is my highly anticipated matchup.
Yep.
I think the Bantam game was my favorite, but going in, this was my highly anticipated matchup, and what a war. This was just a great classic game between two very proud organizations, and it was close. There was some controversy with the kickoff.
Yep. Well, they both had to play through the elements. I mean, that was the game where the rain really was coming down.
Right. I think it was probably more in the tight 10-on-10.
Yep.
It really came down. We had a shot at Kirby, head coach of the Cornwall Wildcats, with his guys just getting soaked. But that's also the time when the Red Blacks came in and kind of uplifted our spirits.
Yeah, we had Trevor Gott and John Gott and Trevor Harris come in during the the Tyke 10-on-10 game.
Trevor Gott.
My mistake. Yeah, so we had Gott and Harris come in between the first and second quarter, and they were nice enough to shake hands with all the kids and talk to the coaches, and then they throw some mini footballs out provided by Myers, and then
how cool is that, eh?
Oh, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so back to the sponsorship and everything. Thank you to Orleans Myers, thank you to our Churros restaurant, the restaurant of Beechwood and Vanier, and thank you to everyone that's trying to make football better. Thank you to HESN and the work that we've all done as a team here.
Yep, and everyone at the Orleans Bengals who helped out put on a very successful championship weekend. I mean, every game we had I'd say at least 400 people at.
Yeah, 400 people in the stands. I want to thank, Tim Tierney. Tim Tierney is the counselor at Beacon Hill, Searville. He is just a guy that you will see everywhere in the city. He's at every event. The guy truly loves his job on the council.
I think he was out with Sarah McLaughlin yesterday at City Hall or something.
I wouldn't be surprised. The guy knows everybody.
Yep.
And we're glad that he knows us because we're working on some awesome things. We had a nice message from the president of the North Gloucester Giants, Jeff Woodhouse, reach out and just thank us for, the stuff that we've been able to do for the league. So really appreciate you reaching out to us that way, Jeff. Thank you for that. And he's also good buddies with Tim, and he's glad that we're working on these boot camps with Tim Tierney. Yep. So things are really going in the right direction in Ottawa, and we just keep adding to the excitement of Ottawa football. I mean, it's never been healthier in my mind.
Yep. And let's just have a look at that Peewee graphic there again, Steve. So again, we got our champion in the Myers Riders, and this Sunday the Ill Bizzard Vikings are going to play the Chateau Grey Raiders. It's a 1-2 matchup again in the MRFL. So
shot and go.
This will really be the best against the best.
So, I mean, I watched that Myers team. Saint Pierre, was it? The running back for Myers.
Elijah St. John.
Elijah St. John. Number one on Myers Riders. The guy was playing hurt, we heard. He has a bit of a hip thing.
Yeah, we saw him limp over and had to be helped over to get his Player of the Game award.
So I hate to make that public knowledge for these Quebec teams, but he's going to have to get in the cold tub.
Well, he's got 2 weeks.
He's got get a bit of time, maybe, but I know that this guy is a tough cookie. So, like, when game day comes Sunday 19th at Carleton, guy's going to be ready to go.
Yep.
And the other factor, they played a complete game. They looked like a really complete football team. Orleans had no business being in that game. They had 8 turnovers or something.
Yep. Yeah, and part of that can be attributed to the rain and just the wet football. But
you know what?
But yeah,
it can't be because
Myers did come to play.
Because yes, it was raining and the elements were a part of that game, but you can't turn the ball over. And a lot of the fumbles weren't like because of the rain or anything. Like, they just flat out didn't play well on offense.
Yep.
So I think they were probably the more talented team. I thought it was going to be a higher scoring game, but the two defenses played well. I mean, anytime you're in a championship, like, they're there for a reason. You know, it's very hard to get there just by luck. Like, these are good defenses. So congratulations to Myers Riders. Now, how about this? A lot of my buddies in the West End where I grew up, I went to Sir Robert Borden High School. I played for the Warriors growing up. Now I've coached with the Warriors and I've coached with Cumberland in the East, but 3 West teams advance. What does that say about the West End of the city compared to the East End of the city, Kyle?
Well, I mean, you look at, we did have 3 West End champions moving on to the Interprovincial Bowl Series, but, I mean, you look at the other 3 champions, I mean, 2 of them are Cumberland, and the other one was the West Carleton Wolverines. So it's not like the West End is completely dominant in the football, it's just the ones that are moving on to the next games that we see.
True. So, good point. Now, let's give the little guys some love.
Yep. Yeah, so we had Tyke 6-on-6, we had the Tyke 10, but let's talk about the Mosquito one first. We had the Cumberland Panthers defeated the
Canada
Knights, and shout out to them. 39-12, you see the final score there, and that was just a complete game by Cumberland.
Yeah.
That was Mike Schmidt's team, right?
Yep, Coach Mike Schmidt. Congratulations to him and his staff, Eric Perron, there as well. They have kids playing on that team. This was awesome. Like, if you look at a tagline from this championship weekend, it's the Knights versus the Panthers, like in this grudge match. So we're probably going to see these teams be successful moving up through the ranks.
Yep.
Usually that's what happens, right? You get a good team, they move on together, they stay pals and buddies, and congratulations to the Canada Knights making it that far. Panthers played a great game. That was another wet one.
Yep.
Well,
shout out to Coach Schmidt. Normally I do the power rankings every week, but there were none this week just because we had championship weekend. But Cumberland, if I was doing them, you guys would finally be number one in that Mosquito division. I know I was taking some heat on Friday night from Mike and the rest of the Panthers crew for
in the Arturo's bus.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great weekend. If we have a look at the Tyke 10v10 score there, and again we had the Cumberland Panthers there. They took on the Cornwall Wildcats this time, and they won again, 46-20. So 2 A-Cup championships coming back to Cumberland.
Yeah, that's big for the organization. Wildcats, I think this is a fun game to watch. The Tyke 10-on-10 is showcases the young kids. A lot of great skills out there.
Yep.
They're learning this game, and
there were even a couple passes too.
There were some passes, yeah, and the Wildcats. This is probably where the rain was coming down the hardest,
yep.
And the Red Blacks came out, stopped the game, uplifted everyone's spirits a little bit. We got John Gott and Trevor Harris up in the booth, as you mentioned.
Yep, they came up and chatted with Jeff for a bit, and
the broadcast we had all sorts of people come up there. We had President Steve Dean, who will be getting the Brian Kilray Award next Thursday at City Hall, which is a huge accomplishment and a huge win for our league to have this guy be recognized for his excellence in coaching and being an executive for youth sports. A huge win for NCAFA.
Yep. So
he's one of our own.
Yep. We had Steve Dean. We also had past president Sid Gilchrist, who the A-Cup is named after. Mm-hmm. We had a reporter for the Orleans Star, Fred, I believe.
Fred, yeah. He was feeding us stats.
Yep.
In that Peewee game.
Yeah, he was out there reporting for 4 of the bowl games, and then he was there. Or he had to go to a Johnny Cash tribute concert, I believe that night.
Yeah, good memory. Yeah.
Yeah. So bunch of guests up in the booth.
We also had Sean Baptiste, another coach. His son was playing in the Mosquito game, fullback, and he had a couple nice runs in that afternoon, helping them win that championship. But he took over. So we just had a lot of people in there, and it was awesome. We're going to be cutting up the highlights of those championship games next week. Yep. But, we thought we'd let you guys chew on the actual broadcast in full length this week.
Yep, enjoy the full games. And then next week we'll put out a highlight compilation of, the top plays, all the interviews that Jeff did on the broadcast, and we'll just have a bunch of more videos.
And now, like I said, it's not official, but I think you should stay tuned to our Twitter account and our social media, because we might be watching those Quebec championship games at Broadway's on Strandherd in Barhaven, at the Broadways there. And next week's podcast, we're going to know who these 3 teams, Myers, Canada, and the Eagles, are playing.
Yep.
And then we've got basically a Sunday full broadcast of these games with the full HESN Live crew. This is going to be awesome.
Yep, as you saw in the posters, the game starts Sunday, November 19th at 10:30 for the Peewee, 1:15 for the Bantam, and 4 o'clock for the Midget. So, like you said, it's going to be a full day of broadcasting, and yeah, it's going to be a fun time.
So, we'll end it there, guys.
Thanks. No. We still have one division to give some credit to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
The Tyke 6-on-6, the West Carleton Wolverines, they beat the East Ottawa Generals 20-7, I believe it was. Let's get that graphic up there. Yeah, 20-7 was the final. That was an entertaining way to start the day. We had, like we said, six kids on each team running around, and credit to the East Ottawa Generals. They have an offensive line that's all female players, which is something you don't usually hear about these days.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we have for all divisions, I believe we can have women playing in.
Yep.
So, shout out to the East Ottawa Generals for including everyone they can, and putting together that all-female offensive line.
That's great, but congratulations to both those teams for making it that far in a new division that has been uber successful, and it's going to expand next year. So we might see football in some new and interesting places.
Yep.
And West Carleton take that one 20-7. Congratulations.
Yep, the inaugural Tyke 6-on-6 champions. And one thing I love about that Tyke division is the uncontested extra point.
Yeah.
Where you just have the snapper, the holder, and the kicker. They just go line up at the 2-yard line. the center sort of snaps the ball and then just sort of gets out of the way and lets the kid kick.
Well, it's good. They just need to learn the snap and the hold and the kick and.
But yeah, it's good that they're getting those fundamentals sort of
Yeah.
trained at that age.
Right, and
Yep.
then what that leads to is a midget championship on the line. But you know what? I think it's been a hugely successful year for that midget league that needed some cleaning up. And with Huddle and with the live broadcast and with the games being filmed by great camera operators, and the Bowl Series, we're in good shape here in Ottawa. Is that it, Kyle?
I believe that's it. Yeah, we congratulated all the champions: West Carleton, Cumberland ×2, Myers, Nepean, Canada, all the champions.
For me, Jesse Card, Kyle Ball, producer Steve, and the rest of the HESN crew, thanks for tuning in live to the HESN Football Podcast, episode 26. We'll be back next Wednesday at 10 o'clock for number 27,
Yep.
and we're going to be profiling heavily the Interprovincial Bowl Series. Bye for now, guys.
I guess it just hurt me. And the thunder crashes down, baby. Where I turn over and she's there asleep. I don't think I ever seen such a beautiful girl. She's come to this sweaty muggy style. When the sun comes up, it's another working day. I'll be pulling at the plum and then she sighs. What a good boy I've been. Who said this was the time is ours to ride?